Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. Dead on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah, the statistics shows my ballistic flows generate big cake, not big candles. That's what you teed them. O's. I'm so ready. How to pack my clothes. I'm so heavy with no D. How them boys. I rock them gators more than gun beat boys. I'm the real raw deal. Y'all just steal decoys. Like
So, and it transformed from fiction into realism, even though it is a work of fiction.
For that green like for Rick, no, not from New Orleans, but can you see me, homie? And oh, mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check. Check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Yeah, look around, left, right, up and down.
So in the time before everything starts, and the second book kind of gets into the very beginning of it, and then the third book kind of ends up the first phase of what happened.
My target audience when I wrote it, in my head was basically teenage girls that had read Twilight and were sorry that it was over.
From the season. And they are animals being arsenic.
But you know, you're the bus driver, right? You know, yeah, there he is. You know, I was like, that's cool. That's like we're made for it.
Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't.
You're more than a pretty face, girl with a curvy shape. You're full of substance, you're not shallow at all. For hours we could sit and talk, yeah. I'm just about anything, from A to Z. It's crazy how you relate to me. Oh girl, with you I can always be myself. Something that I've never felt. What's not to love about you? Every day I find more reasons to. Cause you're in a beauty that's always shining through. What's not to love about you? I love how you don't walk around with the all about me attitude.
Yeah, watch it.
Yes.
Got the words on the track. Dead on the boards.
Thank you.
Bishop Lamar.
Welcome to another great show of APN TV Media. We have a lot in store for you today. As a matter of fact, we're going to try something more refreshing. We'll have our guests and our co-hosts will be interacting up here on our set, as well as I myself. But our co-host, of course, you know Bob Beatles, political analyst, and he will be conducting an interview with her. She is a great friend of mine. I can say the colleague in certain retrospects, as far as when it goes to the not being a client, but also about the homelessness community, which we will be talking about. But we're not talking about the homeless community just in our local area. We're talking about someone who traveled across the United States to do an interview with the different homeless communities and homeless individuals. Okay, as well. And so anyway, her name is Kelli Lee Mistry. Yes, Kelli Lee Mistry. And yes, you heard of her, yes. And she's written a book called Forgotten Souls, which will be released shortly. So if I were you, every now and then to check back on our television website, www.apntvmedia.com, or you can check your local bookstores or your major bookstores. And or, of course, today's technology, you check Amazon or any online retailers or booksellers, okay, as well. So I just wanted to throw that in there because this book is dynamic. And there's also something special that she did, which was kind of interesting, that involved me in there. But we'll talk about that later. In the meantime, I tell you what, before we get up here on the set with these two, we're going to go into our PSA commercial, get our nice little message, and we'll be right back after this.
Check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. That on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah.
Why should our kids eat healthy? That's a good question. What happens when they don't eat healthy? Well, eating unhealthy leads to an unhealthy life. What can it lead to, you may ask? It can lead to childhood obesity, which leads to diabetes, high blood pressure, and also heart problems. It also can lead to our kids taking medicines at an early age and also extended hospital stays. How can we bring awareness to our kids about childhood obesity? How can we bring awareness to our parents about childhood obesity? Bringing awareness to our kids and their families about childhood obesity helps the whole family. Everyone is healthy and everyone is happy. I think I might have a solution. Follow me and let's see.
Set 2, so in Studio A, well, we have Bob Beatles and Kelli Mistry. So go ahead, hey Kelli, I'll be the first one to throw this out there. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Ooh. Well, I was born and raised here in Monroe, where Stevens Publishing Company is. I lived in Mexico and have traveled around the world, and I realized in the United States is one of the worst homeless problems. Other countries don't really have this. And so I've always had an affinity for the underdog, and I love to help people. So that's how the book was born. And I do many jobs. I'm a yoga instructor, I teach meditation, work at a newspaper, and I'm going to school for substance abuse counseling, as well as volunteer with Pastor Boone here in Monroe at our homeless shelter. So,
yes, yes. Well, Bob, the political analyst here, I definitely appreciate you always. I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and kick it off.
Okay.
Just don't mind me. I might ask a few questions, but this is about the homeless community. I'll let you get started. Let me shut up and let you both get started.
Okay.
So, how long have you been doing this type of work with the homeless?
With the homeless, going on 2 years now.
Okay.
Well, and 1.5 years of traveling. It took about 1.5 years traveling and accumulating the interviews before I actually transcribed the book.
Okay, so you traveled throughout the country and interviewed homeless.
I started in Detroit at the NSO. I would go up there once a week for about 2 months. had a little trouble with the drug dealers, so I quit going there, and I decided to go to Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Monroe, of course to Monroe. Then I felt like going out west. I had talked to Stephen, and he had been homeless in California. So that was my goal. I went across the Midwest, which you don't find too many homeless, like Wyoming, Nebraska.
Right.
I think it's too cold, and there's just not the services they need there. But I went to Las Vegas, Chicago, Missoula, Montana, where there's train jumpers, which is a completely different homeless community than actually the homeless people that are on the streets. Utah, the Mormon area in Utah,
Right.
which do a lot for their homeless. They have the most amazing programs. And then to California. So I didn't get to the east so much, or south, or southwest.
Right.
I mostly concentrated on Midwest, West, and I did go to Schenectady, New York to tour a very successful shelter that's privately funded.
Okay. And did you get up around San Francisco? Because I know there are a lot of homeless there.
No, and everyone kept telling me that, but I just did not have the time to head up to San Francisco.
Okay. Well, you did a lot of traveling though, and where did you see the largest percentage of homeless, do you think?
LA, by far. There was, I was in Chinatown mostly, doing most of the interviews in Chinatown. I really wanted to go to Skid Row, but I was alone, and not even a taxi driver would wait for me there, so I drove through Skid Row, but I did not get to interview anyone there. I went to Union Station, Chinatown on the streets, and to a plaza that, I forget the name of it actually, but it's a little Mexican town, like a village. There's a church and a plaza and marketplace.
Okay.
So the interviews in California were done there. And then 2 people on Hollywood Boulevard.
Ah. It's getting very close to right where the movies were made. And that area has gone down a lot in the last several years from what I've read.
It was interesting though, on Hollywood Boulevard, my friend lives on Cheyenne just off of Hollywood,
Right.
about a block. So I just walked down one morning, it was a Sunday, so they had the market going on. And I didn't see that many homeless. I mean, compared to Chinatown.
Right.
Chinatown, they're on every bench, everywhere. You go to any park around Chinatown, covered with homeless people sleeping during the day. It was amazing to me.
So you mean Chinatown? Because what I was looking at is that, well, you said Chinatown. Now, if I remember, isn't Chinatown at least? I mean, Chinatown should be like there's a Skid Row. I'm showing how far it's spread because you traveled over there. And Skid Row, that's the Sixth and Crocker, 9th and St. Julian. You have the Crocker Street, and then a block over on the other side, a block or 2 blocks over on the other side is Chinatown. That's how close you are, but yet it filtered over the fence because the second block over has a fence, a gateway, because they have from everybody jumping from one fence to the other. But on the other side of where Skid Row is that because it was zoned. If I remember, it's still zoned, but it filtered over into Chinatown's area, where you just said that there was a lot of homeless there too?
And they're all mentally ill there that I spoke with.
Oh, wow.
And they told me that they're afraid of the drug dealers and the drug addicts that live on Skid Row. So most of the homeless I spoke with, they don't want to go to Skid Row. One woman in particular that's in the book, Patty, she has to ride her bike over there and see a psychologist for her meds, and she is terrified to go into Skid Row. I think she had to go to Fifth Avenue is where she was. And she told me, no, none of us go over there, and we're homeless ourselves. So apparently it's the drug aspect that they don't like. And most of the people I saw had mental illnesses. And they may smoke marijuana, but they don't do the hard drugs, most of them. I think
the ones that has mental illness?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't talk to every person, so I can only speak for the ones that I interviewed.
Yes. I was just kind of curious because now it's gotten so far beyond in the homeless community within Los Angeles is that their zone technically burst open because there's a zone where when you get released from the police station, you go to downtown LA and Skid Row. If you're going to be, you start to become homeless, they drop you off downtown LA Skid Row. If you go to the like here, it's not human resources, but it used to be called Family Services. Family Independent Agency, FIA, but now I think it's human resource or human services, whatever it's called. But before we know it was FIA, Family Independent Agency. And if you go to places like that to get food stamps, which are now just cards, but they're not cards anymore. They're just in your certain Direct Express or whatever the case may be, to so you won't transfer your money for the drugs. Even there, at that retrospect, was able to be a zone from there to get you a shelter and a place to stay for a little while, or a little hotel for a week or two till you get a job or your Social Security or whatever kicks in, and you get released into the zone of there on San Pedro. Okay, so it seemed like that zone that everybody put the homeless people in California from, no matter where you're located, into the area of the zone actually burst out.
Well, yeah, there's so many people, and there's not that many shelters there, from what I was told.
Yeah, they closed down, huh?
And that's true in Chicago and Detroit, any big city. The police will take homeless and drop them at a certain area. And it's sad, but most of the people in California told me their own states bused them there. So the ones I was talking to that were at Union Station, most of them were from other states. And their state would actually give them a bus ticket to get them to California.
Yeah, because it's still that cliche dream is that not on vacation, what's it? Go on vacation, leave on probation, but also the fact that it's a hobo's paradise. And a hobo's paradise, literally, because of the weather, you're able to sustain surviving year-round in a homeless community than any other state in the world, in the United States, that you'll be able to be in California, and they will bus you. You're right, it's correct. I'm just validating what you're saying.
Yeah.
They actually bus you to this zone, but I'm still avid with this loss that the zone actually, I should have realized that from back then, that it expanded or over-filtered.
And I didn't document this in the book, but as we drove to Pasadena, all along the river on the side of the highway were tent cities, and the police were clearing them out often. Like they'll put the tents back up. But there were other places I remember driving and looking beside the highway, and there's tent cities all along the ravines along the highway. So it's not only just into like Chinatown, the whole entire area has issues going on.
That's sad. That's sad.
Wow.
Bob?
Yeah, I didn't know it had gotten that bad out in the LA area.
Yeah.
And so which area, now you were saying in Utah they took better care of their homeless than any place else, you thought?
Yes. My son lives in Ogden, Utah, and one of his neighbors that lives across the street, she actually got a law passed. She would not be in my book, and I was really saddened because I talked to her a long time. She got a law passed for homeless children. I believe the population of homeless children is larger than homeless people in the U.S. Okay. She got a shelter built, she got funding, she got a law passed in Utah to take care of the children longer than the 30 days. They're not allowed to be in shelters now with adults because there's a lot of pedophiles. So she did a lot of change. But she also told me that there are people who don't want to be part of society, and there's an entire community up in the hills, in the woods, that she goes and checks on and takes care of. So, but they also have laws there, or programs. My ex-boyfriend is in my book, and he ended up becoming homeless in Ogden. So he stayed in St. Anne's shelter. And I asked him to please tell me how the system works, because they wouldn't really talk to me out there. A private shelter did an interview, but the public one was not too keen on it. And he said most of the people had mental illness that he was with in the shelter. And what you have to do is get onto welfare first and get food stamps and your Medicaid. And then if you get a job and you can work for 4 weeks and be in the shelter for 4 weeks, they give you vouchers for housing.
Right.
And they will give you vouchers to semi-furnish your housing. And they own resale stores where they actually have the homeless work. So they'll have them work there, and they'll use the vouchers there to help you get into your house. And he did that. So within 3.5 weeks, he was getting all the paperwork done, got his vouchers, and within 5 weeks, they found him housing.
Oh, that's good.
And he's still working. So, but they have really good programs to help them get into housing and to stay employed. Not just give them, just don't give them
Right.
this or give them that. They have to. And their shelter, you have to blow a breathalyzer and drug test at that shelter.
Okay.
Most government shelters will do that, but the private shelter there also does the same.
Well, I'm sure they think if you're not passing the breathalyzer, then you're going to be right out on the street again. So, okay.
And most likely they will.
Yeah. Well, that's how a lot of people get in that, end up in that type of problem, because they're drinking way too much or doing drugs that have nasty side effects.
It's funny you talk about the alcoholics. I could spot them just from my first talk when I would first approach them. They asked me for $2, and it was across the United States. No matter where I went, say, "Would you be interested in talking to me about a book I'm writing about the homeless? Can I have $2?" I knew right away they were an alcoholic, because they can get that Mad Dog liquor or whatever for like $1.85.
Yeah.
So yeah, they
You really don't care anything about your body if you're drinking that stuff.
well, no, and they wouldn't really tell me a whole lot.
No,
they would say,
no.
"Oh, I have diabetes, I do this, I do that. Can I have my $2?" So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I have seen in different places where people were homeless, and I think it was in Las Vegas. I was out there one time, and this homeless guy is trying to walk out of a store with a big bottle of wine in his back pocket, and of course he got caught. And actually there were police in the store at the time, so they caught him and they chased him out of the store and made him run when he got outside.
Well, that wasn't nice.
No.
In Grand Rapids, here in Michigan, they treat the homeless really well too. And I know the police hang out at the liquor store, and they'll even put pictures, because some of the alcoholics will get people to buy for them.
Right.
So they have a picture, "Please don't buy for this person." But they're really nice to them. Like if they find them at the store, they just escort them back to the park, and they help them if they can't walk. They take really good care. They have programs there where they get shoes, they get Carhartt jackets in the winter.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, there's, I think they told me 16 places they can eat for free every day.
Well,
They get bus passes, so they take good care of the homeless in Grand Rapids, Michigan too.
Well, as far as big cities go, that's probably the nicest one I know of in Michigan. So, not dirty. It's got a lot of nice restaurants, and the downtown looks very nice. It's not like going through downtown Detroit.
No, and people in Chicago actually told me that they will talk amongst themselves in the homeless communities, and they always say that they should all go to Grand Rapids because they're treated so well there. And that was, I heard that in Chicago from 2 different people.
Oh my gosh. That does
When
not
they
bode
ask
well for Grand Rapids, because they don't want that whole group going there.
They're being too nice, but that's what we need. We need more of that in every state and every city, and then our homeless problem might get better.
Yes.
Compassion, love, and care is what the homeless people need.
Right, and I think it would be better if it was being done by the private sector than by the government, because the private sector tends to function better in doing that type of thing. Well, anytime that people need help, it seems like the private sector does it much better than the government.
Do me a favor, Bob. Could you explain to the viewers and readers what private sector means?
Well, the private sector means not the government. It means, for instance, when people have extra money, if the government was smaller, taking less money out of their pockets, and the economy was expanding, which is what happens when you cut taxes and deregulate, okay, when people get more money, they give to charities. And the better charities, most of the money goes to people who need extra money, they need food, and the people actually care about the people they're dealing with. The private sector helps people. They try to help them get jobs. They give them the food that they need. Now, when the government gets the money, like the money that's spent on welfare, 2/3 of that money goes to the bureaucrats who administer the welfare program. 1/3 of the money gets to the people who need it. That's a big waste of money. And do those bureaucrats really care about the people they're giving money to or helping to get food to? Some of them do, but I'm sure not all of them. Some of them are just there to get the check, and so that's
I find
why
that's very true, very true. And even in Monroe here, the Salvation Army has a coat drive. They get free coats. But in order for a family to get the coats, they have to have a Social Security number and register for a coat.
Really?
Which is insane. Most homeless people don't have their Social Security cards or numbers.
Right.
They don't have ID. They don't have birth certificates. And they don't have the resources to get those things without help. And to me, the government programs, like you said, go to the bureaucrats. They don't get to the people. And they're not giving them the resources that they need either to continue to become more productive. I found that, like the program where they give people a cell phone, they give them no resources, no job. They just give them a cell phone and say, here, you can have the cell phone. It's free. And I feel in my heart it's to get votes. Most of the programs that are giving free things are doing it in exchange to get votes from these people or from the...
If it's coming from a politician, it's for a vote.
Definitely.
He's getting something out of it.
But all of the private shelters that I went to that will not take government funding because the money does not get to the people. It's just, by the time it gets to the people, they can't even do anything. And there's red tape. You can't do this, you can't do that. You can't help someone who's still drinking. You can't help someone still on drugs. They're the ones who need it most.
Right.
So I know with Pastor Boone in Schenectady and in Utah, what they do, they have resources, they have classes to teach these people to become productive. Most of them have a poverty mindset. They don't know anything but poverty, and they know what their parents did, and they're conditioned to do that, and they think that's the only choice they have. They don't even know how to engage their thinking. So she does programs where she helps them get jobs. They have a clothing closet, helps you dress. There are many programs. In Schenectady, they do an outreach program where they took the people and they actually had them put on vests, flashlights, name tags. They put them out on the street, so after the theater got out or any night functions in the night, down in the part of town where it wasn't maybe so safe, these people that are streetwise would walk people to their cars, to the parking structure. And they did it free for 3 months. The mission did. After 3 months, they took them away, and people started complaining to the businesses, oh, where are the people that escorted us? We really felt safe. They know the streets. They're aware. So then they're like, well, it was a free program for 3 months. So Schenectady Mission, the COO, the operating officer, he and his people would go around to the businesses and ask them for money. You can pay yearly, and we'll keep our ambassadors on the street.
Right.
So now they make $50,000 a year in funds just to keep their people out there. They started a program for driving people to work. They started a program where, like nursing students, they train them to be private nurses in home care. They'll start driving them to work, but within 1 year they have to make enough funds and buy their own car. Because you can't be a private nurse without a car.
Right.
So they look for solutions to the problems. They take the clothing that's donated, they bundle it in the shoes and ship it to Africa. They get 35 cents a pound for clothing, 55 for shoes. So the clothing that they cannot use here can be used in another country, but it generates income. They have stores where they take the higher end products and have boutiques. They make over $1 million a year. And the same is in Pontiac, Michigan. They would not be in my book, but they do the same type of thing. They hold fashion shows. They raise a lot of money by using, and some of them use the homeless people, some don't, but they use some of the clothing that's donated. They have many programs. The Schenectady bought dry cleaning businesses. They have employ their people there. They have labs where they teach them math and get their GED. They have another program where they teach people to cook on electric and gas stoves, how to clean a house. They teach mothers how to clean houses, child care. I mean, they have all these programs, a community garden, a bakery. So they were able to go from one house in a crack neighborhood. They bought up all the crack houses. They now own 5 blocks. They have transitional housing, a park, you name it. And it's all funded by their programs.
Right.
So that is what Pastor Boone is trying to do here. And it's very difficult to get the community on board.
Oh, yes.
You know,
and I've seen that she does good work down there.
Yeah.
I've heard many good things about her.
We've had, I believe it's like 7 people now come off of drugs and alcohol on their own. We don't force them, nag them, we love them, because these people don't have love. When you show them love and 5-star treatment, we treat them like they're just top of the line citizen, like you would if you were wealthy. These people realize someone loves and cares about them, and they start to care about themselves.
And that warming center she has is very good, because in the cold weather, you know how cold it gets here. They need a place to stay warm.
Right. And she's the only center that will let them in. It's called a wet shelter, where they're drunk or on drugs. Now, we have rules. It's not a free-for-all, but they cannot bring any drugs on the premises, no alcohol.
Right.
But she will not take a person and put them out in below zero weather if they've been drinking. She
Right.
just can't do it. It's not in her heart.
No.
But those are the people who have now changed. They have
yeah.
jobs, and now most of them work at the shelter. One in particular, he's one of my closest friends. I love this man dearly. He had schizophrenia, but he was like the movie A Beautiful Mind. He's so intelligent, but he's been there 2 years. He wouldn't take meds, and when he would go to the government program, they just want to drug him up till he's a zombie.
Right, exactly.
They would not work with his meds or work with him or get him counseling. He ended up, sometimes he got a little violent, and one girl would aggravate him constantly, putting stuff in his face, like, here, do this, do that. One day he slapped something out of her hand because she got up in his face, and he had told her to stay away numerous times. So she pressed assault charges, and he was in jail for 3 months. In there, one of the cellmates talked to him about lithium levels and salt levels in his brain and how he could get drugs that would work, not just be drugged up. And when he came back, he told me about it. He was talking about, most people would not understand anything he said. It would sound nonsensical and crazy to most, but I understood what he was saying. And I said to him, Tim, what if you go to a doctor who will work with you and get the levels proper so you're not a zombie, but you feel good and you can be productive again? He said, yeah, I've been thinking about that. Well, he ran away the following week, and we were really upset because it's not that he feels like that's his home. He cleans, he takes care of things, does the dishes, like he feels that is his home, and Pastor Boone is his family. So when he ran away, we were very distressed, and he returned last week. He had checked himself into Monroe Mercy Hospital and asked them to get his levels proper so he could be drugged and not be a zombie, like not be tired. Right. He came back, he got his Social Security card, his driver's license, and a job. And it's amazing, the difference in him.
Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. That on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamont. Wow. Yeah.
that's what I was wondering.
So like Pastor Boone lets them use her address to get jobs and to get their Social Security card and their license, and their mail will come there. And even the veterans, like the veterans to get their benefits, and that have to have an address, so the ones that live there.
Well,
So what you're saying, I'm sorry, so what you're saying is, even though that they're homeless, if they don't have, they have identification, but they don't have a home, can they utilize whatever treatment establishment as a basis for being able to vote, or they cannot? Now that's I'm wondering because you have people that have homes that have mental illness,
Right.
and then you have, I'll do it this way: you have one mental illness, either ones have homes or one that don't. Are they entitled to vote, either one, or I'm threw this out there for both of you.
Yeah, I personally don't know. For me, you're opening up a whole new can
Can
of
of
worms
worms,
there.
yes.
I don't know. I
It's
don't
just-
know with mental illness. I don't know if they're in a rehabilitation.
Because you
or
see mental
a-
illness being homeless out there,
Right.
like it is, and then it's kind of a two-part question.
Right. Don't you have to
was
be
thinking.
mentally competent to vote as well as have your
That
ID?
is what I was getting
Well,
at.
I don't know the law. I would have to.
I
Yes.
think you're supposed to, but
Well, you hit it on the nail, actually.
I don't. I'm not really sure. If you have your ID, if you have
And
your ID and you're registered to vote, you just go and you vote. They're not going to check to see whether you just came out of the mental hospital or not. There's there's no way they're ever going to know about that.
Okay, because I was wondering, because we said about, maybe 20-something minutes ago about, in the session about the homeless people, they were mental illness, but also the right to vote.
Right.
And I was just bringing it back, recouping about the mental illness. If they do have a home, are they allowed to vote? But here's the thing. When those that become homeless, or should I say this, even whether they're mental illness, capacity, addicted, drug addiction, whatever it is, poverty because they lost their job. When they lost it, now what I'm getting is that all these effects, the end result is homelessness. Now you have this upside down cone where everybody had everything, whatever it was, and they went down and they were filtered out, and the only thing left on the table was just the homeless people. Now the homeless people that were mental illness or whatever, shouldn't they have a right to vote? Because now you got to figure out in politics, because I remember you mentioned about political.
I don't know how you would
They're
how they are
excluded,
filtered out, or how they would be excluded unless they lost their card, lost their registration. If they're registered
Yes.
and they have an ID, they can vote. That's the only thing they check. And sometimes they don't even check their ID.
So I think
Right,
they would
they
more
just
so
have
have
the
a right to vote
registration.
because the position that they're in.
Well,
Yeah.
when I was speaking about the phones they were giving
Yes.
out and things, I was saying the population in general, maybe not the homeless, but the poverty level or that type of ethnic.
Yes, but no, that's right. Actually, they do give our phones away. If you don't have a home, the phones are for the emergency. That was the main thing about emergency, a necessity. And this day and age, because of the homeless atmosphere, you cannot run to a payphone to call for help. Back in the day, there used to be
Right.
pay phones on every corner. So if a person got robbed or whatever the case would be out there, homeless against homeless, whatever it is, a homeless person can actually go to a phone, the pay phone, and they can dial 911, and the police will be there to help regardless, even if they're homeless, because they don't want any more effects congruing
Ripple effect.
ripple effects, yes, that destroys that area, like Chinatown, for example.
Right.
And I was using Chinatown because of the fact that I know for a fact that they used to have these certain plants out there in front of one of their exquisite. I want to say hotel, condominium places, okay? Or directly up beside the fence. And what happened late at
Yucca
night,
plants?
these are some gorgeous plants, but they keep
sharp.
getting taken.
Oh, I
Yes,
thought you meant the
getting taken and
plants to keep them
sold
away.
to the
Interesting.
over there by the city market or where they over by the produce place or no, the old bus station. They used to take it to the old bus station and they used to sell those plants. Okay, and then the next day they do the same thing over. And so when the people come out, they look at it and you got all these bushes tore up because the plants that they have. See, everything is for sale when you're homeless. everything you could think of, even your shoestrings.
And phones. And the problem I saw with the phones,
Yes.
they might have the what they call the Obama phone, they would tell me. Yeah, I have
Rechargeable minutes.
My Obama phone. And they could use it for other things, not just emergency. They had so many minutes
Yes.
a month. They also would have their own cell phones. So they're getting
Yeah.
Social Security, or they're getting
Right.
some type of income, or like you said, selling whatever.
Yes.
They have their own phone and this phone. And I saw that often. So it's interesting that we should be channeling our money for homeless programs
Yes.
in a better manner.
But you know
in
what?
my
Actually,
opinion.
when you get to that cell phone, also is really another hit on the nail about in the homeless community that were able to have phones. But then when you have phones, the homeless community, no matter what state, you know, within our country, or no matter what state within our own nation, the United States, is that when they get a free phone, they should also have a free will to choose about voting, because getting that phone is for the emergency reasons. Getting that phone is to protect their interests, their well-being. But also, when they're homeless, the effects of that homelessness in politics, like you're saying, is that something happened where the government had failed, right? It failed somewhere, and then you got these sectors that's picking up the pieces, or new sectors being created to pick up the pieces to help the homeless. But the homeless should be saying, you know what, I have the right to vote and I'm starting to make a statement here. They have a right to choose who to be in office because I'm still out here.
If they're getting free benefits, they're going to use it first, and that's what my point was. Like they're being bribed to vote for someone.
And the bad thing is, though, what the government's doing today is they're paying illegal aliens more money than they're giving people, a lot of people on Social Security, a lot of people who grew up in this country are legal citizens, and they should cut off all that money to the illegal aliens. Why is our government giving money to illegal aliens? That's silly.
Well, I can answer that for you, I think. I lived in Mexico as an illegal alien. I was not illegal. I actually had to go to Mexico. I had to pay a fee to get my, what we call a green card here, my FM3. If you work, you get an FM2. You pay so much taxes to them, and whatever doesn't cover your U.S. taxes, you pay taxes in both countries.
Right.
And you pay, if you're working, it's $2,000 a year to live there. If you're not, it's like $200 and some a year. You have to have your own income. That generates money for the government of Mexico. Why can't we do that here?
Yes, but why are they giving the illegals?
Who lets the illegals in, though?
The government.
The government lets them in because they can exploit them. And who gets caught? All these wealthy people, gardeners, nannies that are illegal, using them illegally, not paying them. So my theory is they're being let in because the ones who want to come in legally, I had a lot of friends because I lived in another country that wanted to come visit me for 6 months or whatever. They can't get in here.
No.
They will not let them in. If you don't own property, you don't own a car, you don't have family, there were so many stipulations they can't come in legally.
Why give them money?
But no, that's what I'm saying. Now, I don't know why that's going on, but I'm telling you why they were let in to begin with.
Why they were let in, yes.
Now we have a big issue, and I think that the issue is there's so many of them. They're filling up our jails. They're trying to fix it by giving them money and making them citizens. But, you know, I come from a viewpoint that we live in a world where we're all brothers and sisters and we shouldn't have borders. And I know that's pretty leftist for you, but, you know, I think that we all are immigrants here except Native Americans, and what do we do to them? So why can't people come in? But let it generate income like Mexico.
As long as it's legal.
Mexico lets anyone in. No one wants to bomb Mexico or go to war with them. It's a pretty peaceful country. I mean, the drug lords, okay, you got them. But I lived there for many years, and they make money off of people immigrating. We could do the same. It would be so simple. Let them in, even the ones that are only coming in and pay $250 and they pay taxes.
30 years ago, when people came in here, they had to learn to speak English. They had to learn the history of the country. Then they could become citizens.
I didn't even have to learn to speak Spanish to live there, though. I mean,
no, but you weren't becoming a citizen of Mexico.
Well, I was considered a.
Were you?
Yeah, you're considered like not a citizen, but I had a visa.
A resident.
A resident. I was a resident.
Yes.
Just like here.
But there's a difference between being a resident and a citizen.
My ex-husband's been a resident alien his whole life here.
Oh.
pays taxes. He's from England.
Okay.
Certain countries are let in, the
Yes.
ones that will benefit,
No,
benefit the
but
economy.
a lot of times it takes them a lot longer to come in legally than it should.
Yeah.
You know,
Now-
the red tape for someone wanting to be a legal or to immigrate to this country legally, it's just incredible.
And
that's
they don't let them
ridiculous.
in. That's I know
Yeah.
from personal experience. And my grandson is a Mexican citizen. He was born in Mexico. They recognize dual citizenship. They do not here. So here
No.
he's got an American passport. He has this Mexican passport. He's 7 and he's bilingual. He speaks both languages fluently.
I just know now that it's even more so confusing because the fact that, that's interesting that even with homelessness, when the refugees, when they come here, they can become instant homeless as well and filter in, no matter what state it is that they can actually, see, it's because of all these terrorist attacks and all stuff like that, we don't know who's who anymore. We just don't know
But-
who's who.
We know who's human.
Yeah, that's
You brought
very
up
good.
an interesting point. One person I interviewed, he's my very first interview in the book. He came from Hungary or Bulgaria or somewhere like that. He got here illegally. He ran away at 10 years old. He got on a ship. He got to the U.S. He was arrested for being an illegal wherever he was. I forget the first place he went, New York or somewhere. But they took him to Washington, D.C., locked him up for a month for being here illegally, questioned him, threw him out on the street. They threw him out in D.C. and said, okay, you're free. They didn't send him home, nothing. Our government just put him on the street, and here he is. He can't even get health care. Like the Obama health care plan, it annoys me. I'm sorry, I get on my soapbox, but there are people without IDs that are citizens. There's people like him.
Right.
There's people from Haiti that are here that came, and they're being sheltered. Now they're out on the street. None of them can get health care because the Obama administration shut down every free program. U of M had M-Care. Detroit Receiving, they had a care for the homeless that could come in and get meds.
He wants the government to control your life from morning till night.
So
that shouldn't happen.
Now they have to be on the Obamacare system.
Yes.
So now we have all these homeless that cannot get health care at all.
Well, you know what?
Or don't even know how to use the resources to be able to. And if you're an illegal on the street, you can't go home. You have no one to take care of you. You have no family. You have no income. You can't get a job, and you can't have health care.
Well, you know what
So here's disease.
Thomas Jefferson said that covers that. He said, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty.
Yes.
And
So we
we've
need
had
to-
tyranny for way too long.
We need to unite.
Yes.
One heart, one love,
That's it.
one race,
All
the
right.
human race.
Hey, you're good.
Very good. And you know what? I know it's that time, but
All right.
I'm glad to have you on the show, Kelly.
Thank
We're
you
both
for
glad,
having me.
and I mean that's
you were
awesome.
good. You were good today.
Yes, yes. And we want to have you come back again.
I would love to.
Yes, I will definitely want you to come back on. We're not finished. This is good. This is good because it shows every avenue that we have on, especially on how the homeless. Basically, what you're sharing is how not only just how the homeless became homeless, but how are they remaining homeless?
Yep.
It's the big mystery. How are they can get into because of the remember we had the rich, middle class, and poor, and then all of a sudden you get the middle class becoming poor, and the upper middle class and rich becomes in one segment of its own. Then you have, once they become poor and they're trying to come back into that level of the middle class, there is no middle class financial stability to come back to.
Exactly. Well, 1984 said it all. That's exactly what you get with big government. The government controls your life from morning till night, and that's what a lot of politicians want. I mean, John Dingell said in an interview with Paul W. Smith, the government needs to control the people. That's the type of politician we don't need.
Right. And they use media. They use a lot of things to control
Oh,
people.
yes, they do.
Subliminal messages.
All kinds of
fear,
stuff.
Fear.
Interesting.
Yes.
What the people need is resources. And one thing I wanted to bring up, in Austria, Germany, Switzerland, the healthcare programs over there, in most of Europe, They are set up so that if you make a certain amount of money, you can buy private health care that subsidizes. But everyone gets health care. So they don't have homelessness, and no one is without health care in those countries, and they're not private. So they're not for profit. So the government oversees the regulations, make sure that everything's up on par, but they do not run the healthcare system. It's a not-for-profit healthcare, and it works beautifully.
The problem in this country, when healthcare got bad in this country, it was FDR who started it, because he put wage and price controls on.
And FDR is?
Right.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Thank
President Roosevelt.
And what he did is he put on wage and price controls. So when a company wanted to bid employees away from other companies, they started giving out free health care. Well, before the third-party payers came in, doctors had to keep the costs low enough so that people could pay out of their pockets.
Right.
And we had a better health care system than the rest of the world because of that.
You could trade a chicken.
You could, yeah.
But it comes down to community resources. People need resources to be able to become productive and to change learned habits. We need resources available to people so they can change.
But if we got rid of all the government paying as the government is a third-party payer, other third-party payers, doctors would have to go back to keeping their prices low enough so people could pay out of their pockets, which is the way it should be.
Well, all business should be like that.
Well, it should be.
That's a whole new show,
all these problems are caused by big government. That's it.
All right, then you know what? Actually, we'll be right back after this. One of the things, I'm glad to have our guest, Kelli Lee Mistry. Kelli Lee Mistry with her book, Forgotten Souls. And it's kind of awesome that she has prepared. Of course, everybody knows our co-host, Bob Beatles. Yes. And what I do like to address, or should I say, leave a mental note with this. You know what, no matter where she went to, it still involved the community. If the homeless are still remaining homeless, there's something wrong with the bridge, okay? There's something wrong with the cracks. There's something wrong in the system on how even the illness people are still remaining homeless. No matter what you give them, something has to change. And maybe it is, like I'm looking on this little sign up here, education matters. So maybe it is something where we have to help teach the homeless within our own community about how to be productive within our own community. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there's almost no such animal as middle class anymore. So with those like us that are homeless, that actually, after months of therapy, addiction free, and then get back into society to today's, we're not talking about the 80s or the 90s, we're talking about now we're going to 2020 pretty soon from 2015. And in this society of the new gadgets and gizmos, that the people that were homeless for a long period of time or becoming homeless, there's literally no way to get them back into a level of society that doesn't exist anymore in any community. Is that correct?
Okay,
Yes.
I wanted to add something that's really important. The community mindset. You were talking about education, community education, because what Pastor Boone wants to do is amazing. It will help people with the resources. But when we went to the community meeting, every citizen in Monroe that doesn't understand what homelessness is or who these people are, they said, keep your people on your side of the tracks. We don't want you over on our side. We don't want your resources. We don't want your homelessness over here. But it's 2 doors away from here. And for me, that's why I wrote the book. They have to understand these are humans. And if they see this book with the people's faces and their stories and can have some compassion and change their mind and be educated on how to help your fellow human, I think that's where we'll see change. And I really wanted to get that out. It was important, and I didn't talk about it. So I think
you tied it all up.
Community education is needed as well.
Very
Excellent.
good.
Excellent. And on that note, I thank all of you for being here, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. We are looking forward to seeing you next week. Take care. God bless. Talk to you in a little bit.
Yeah, watch it. Got the words on the track. Dead on the boards. Church. Bishop Lamar. Wow. Yeah, the statistics shows my ballistic flows generate big cake, not with candles that spaghetti them O's. I'm so ready, how to pack my clothes. I'm so heavy with no D, how them boys. I rock them gators more than Dundee boys. I'm the real raw deal, y'all just steal decoys like them duck hunters, runners, blowing whistles, making noise. It's official, tell them nizzles, I'm the dizzle, flow sizzle, flow shizzle. I'm off the hizzy, busy signal. I got that hustle muscle for that green like before Rick. No, not from New Orleans, but can you see me, homie? Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check, a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check, a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Yeah, look around, left, right, up and down. Ain't nobody like me. Wrist so icy, colors like iced tea. Them diamonds get pricey. Got rich now, everybody so nice to me. I'm a whiz kid, Doogie Howser. Just like the game, snatch your dame, I'm Bowser. Spit hot flames, stay sagging in my trousers. Even on church day, the preacher like no way. And Miss Jenkins like, Lord, take them demons away. In my headphones, Jesus walks by Kanye. Mackin' to a chickie, trying to get some kissy kissy. You can nibble on my neck, but no hickey. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check, a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Mic check, check 1, 2. If it ain't a check, a text, that's all I'm gon' do. Mic check, check 1, 2. If you ain't talking dollars, I can't understand you. Baby, I'm the bomb diggy. Girls be begging for another chance like I'm Biggie. I run the city, call me P. Diddy. My life's Whoopi Goldberg, it ain't nothing pretty. It's been a long time coming, this ain't happened quickly. Overnight, try more like over and over until the morning light. Steady trying to get it right.